Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Cracking the Rich Code podcast. You are going to love this show because I have another wonderful guest for you. And yeah, I know I say that all the time, and I keep saying that I say that all the time, but all the time it's true. You know, the authors in this series are just absolutely amazing, and our guest today is somebody very special. Her name is Noel Andrews-Sotta. She is an executive coach, a fractional COO, a speaker, and a first-time international best-selling author with Cracking the Rich Code. So I'm going to bring her in and wait till you talk to this person or hear from this person because um, you're going to instantly uh, feel a bond. Just saying. So here she is. Here's Noel. Noel, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing great, John. Nice to see you.
Hey, I love doing this podcast because I get to meet people like you who got this great big smile on their face, eager to go, ready to face the world, and just a lot of positive energy. We chatted for just a couple of minutes as we were getting set up here, and right away I can get some just great energy and vibes from you. So I think we're going to have a great conversation and a great show.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Now uh, I'm just going to kind of start this out because this is such a special feeling to be that, a first time author and be an international best selling author, kind of right out of the box. So let's talk just a little bit about that kind of an experience for you, because I understand that you were a little hesitant to jump into this realm.
That I was. Jim had reached out to me, and not once, not twice, but actually three times, because the first two times I said no. It's just, everybody who knows me, at least that it knew me prior to a couple years ago, I've not been a big reader until 2 years ago. I started reading everything that I possibly could. Um, but English was not my class in school. I was the math student. I was the science student and the art student. I wasn't going to be reading. Writing, I had friends who had dreams of doing books. That could be their thing. My thing was going to be something different. And I'd started writing some things on LinkedIn about a year and a half or 2 years ago now. And I enjoyed that. And that's what Jim noticed. And he reached out and said, "Why don't you consider it?" No, I can't write a chapter. Who are you kidding? But on the third time, I finally said, okay, I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. And I sat down one Saturday to start the chapter, and it just rolled out. I had the whole chapter, at least the first draft of it, done in about an hour and a half. And it shocked me as to how much I enjoyed it and how easy it was and how much more there was to actually I wanted to write about. So I worked on focusing on that chapter and getting it together and finalizing the frameworks that I started to talk about in the chapter. And I have another 4 or 5 frameworks that I've got on top of it that I now am looking at putting together to actually have. And I can't believe I'll see it. Someday I'm going to actually have my own book that I will get out there with all of these frameworks. So it shocked me.
Isn't that an amazing feeling though? And it becomes, it's almost therapeutic and cathartic to put our thoughts on paper, and then to find that, a lot of times when we do stuff like that, oh, it's not going to be good enough, nobody's going to care. and then
Right.
and then you see that completely opposite kind of reaction. Not only was it
Yes.
accepted, but it's, you're published out there now. It's great
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's a
Exactly.
remarkable feeling. So now we're going to go into your chapter in a bit, but during this period of time, you said you started posting things on LinkedIn. What were you writing about? And kind of, let's talk a little bit about the kind of work that you were doing at the time.
It started out as a process for me just to start formulating my ideas. I mean, things that I noticed, leadership lessons. I come from a background. Started my career with General Electric, which apparently, when you say that now, actually ages you because the next generation doesn't know the history of General Electric and Jack Welch. But I was born and raised in that GE culture, which was
Mhm.
all about leadership
Bring
development
good things to
and
life.
totally, totally. But the magic that GE had is that they had an internal culture and an internal language and a way of communicating across all of their global businesses. and they invested heavily in developing their leaders and developing people into the type of leaders that they wanted to be. And I was so blessed early on to be in their financial management program and be a heavy recipient of that training all the way through their executive training in Crotonville. And I looked around at my friends who did not have that. And so I had a lot of tools at my fingertips that were my education continued through my corporate career with General Electric. And I was always passionate and interested about sharing some of those things and refining some of those things
Mhm.
into packets that could help others. And that's what I started writing about. We're just little leadership lessons. One of my favorite is actually about my son who plays baseball. And as a young child, he would be out there and his team would lose, and you'd see the other kids all upset because they lost, right? And you had that fighting spirit in them. And I'm this mother of this 5-year-old thinking, my son comes off, he's happy as could be. Let's go get ice cream. I'm like, you just lost. I'm like, where's your fighting spirit? Right. And as a mother of a young child, I'm like, how do I instill this in him? There was no instilling it in him. He had a competitive spirit, but he had what I
Absolutely.
call the next play mentality, which I think is
Mhm.
a beautiful thing for especially pitchers and goalies and really anyone on the athletic field. Is you go in there and you may not have the play go the way you want. You've got to immediately shift to your next play and be ready
Mhm.
for it. And that's where the magic comes in as far as being a strong, resilient player. He had that at 5, and I didn't know what it was. And so I wrote about that as a leadership lesson. And the picture is a picture of him holding a ball from being a goalie in soccer. It was a all division state goalie. So it was he's quite the athlete, and I'm very proud that to have learned that from him. And those are the lessons I wrote about.
And it's so amazing when you look at these kinds of lessons, how they can be applied in all other aspects of life.
Everything.
You think it starts off in the athletic realm in this particular case, but boy, that mindset is
Yes.
so incredibly important to other aspects of your life. And I think
Right.
it's interesting we're talking about Jim Britt. One of the things that I had learned that Jim Britt said was he said, when you are considering some major decision, the first 10 things that go through your brain are the last 10 times you failed.
Right. Right.
And so that is just our normal, kind of the normal way that we approach things. But to get past that, to be able to get to that yes, to that next move, whatever it is,
Right.
makes all the difference in the world.
Right.
And
Right.
and it's so critical that your son had this embedded in him, right, already instilled in him, and you must have been part of that without even realizing that. But somewhere along the line, you gave him that mentality to say, okay, so we lost this, and we go to the next thing.
Right.
We've got the next thing to worry about. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Esther Dyson. She says, "Always make new mistakes." I
Right.
love
It's
that.
beautiful.
I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
It's
so you don't
beautiful.
beat yourself
Exactly.
up for things that don't go exactly how you plan, because you
Right.
learn from it and you know what to do the next time.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Because if you will, change is inevitable in everything
There
that you're going forward to, right?
That's exactly it, and you're leading right into where we're going, and that's what you wrote about in your chapter in the book. It's change is
Yes.
inevitable and chaos is optional.
Yes, very
Beautiful.
much so. Very much so. Yeah, I've spent my career, I spent over 30 years in the corporate world driving transformations globally. And one thing I learned early on, in my first few years at General Electric is at the end of the year, there's that performance review cycle, right? The
Oh, yeah.
annual time you stop and you lift up your head and you say, what did we accomplish, right? Which should be more frequent, but that's what it was then.
Yeah.
And I realized that
If you're
there are
lucky, you
some,
have the 6-month check-in.
if you're lucky, right, right, exactly, exactly. But what I realized is that there were some years, and the years that felt really good were when I was part of a team where you looked back and you were on a journey and you can see, wow, I've been on a long path, right? The view of what I'm doing looks different at the end of the year than it did at the beginning of the year. And I recognized that feeling. I loved that feeling. And then there were other years where, boy, the year felt really hard. I was running through knee deep mud, and you get to the end of the year and you look back and you're like, I only made it 5 steps, right? I'm standing practically in the same place I was at the beginning of the year. What's up with that? And that distinction is kind of what was an underlying current and passion of mine through the corporate world. Was I wanted to end the year in a different place. I didn't want to end the year in the same place. And that became the impetus of the reason you have these great plans on January 1st, New Year's resolution personally, your big vision and goals for businesses, right? Great plans, which are perfect, they're wonderful. But what you have to do is you have to learn how to navigate change, because change is going to happen.
Yes.
And it's how you really react to that change and how you lead yourself through it and how you lead your team through it, which is going to determine where you end up at the end of the year. And when you do it right, what's beautiful about it is that you can actually navigate change and have all of those big curveballs that are sent your way and big changes that are sent your way that you didn't expect. They can actually have you end in a place way far past where you thought you would be at the beginning of the year if you navigate it correctly and are open to it. And that's really the heart of everything that I'm writing, are tools and frameworks to help people lead themselves and lead others through that journey.
And that is so needed. People fear change so much. And it's interesting because when you talk to people and you say, do you want your life or your business or whatever to remain exactly where it is right now? Of course not. We always
Right.
want something to change. We want, I don't know, more um we might want to be healthier. We might want
Right.
a new car. Or we might want, more money. I don't know anybody who wants less money, but if you do, if you know anybody, let me know. I'll be happy to help them out with that. But
Well, I'll help them out too.
but we always want something to change in life, but we don't want to be changed. We want to
Mm,
be able to decide what's going to change and what's not going to change, and we can't always do that. Real life doesn't work that way. So the real blessing, Noel, and that's where you're taking people, is to kind of guide them through or give them a framework so that they can use to navigate through change they didn't necessarily ask for,
right.
uh,
Right.
but that will get them to that new place that may be better.
Right. Right. And sometimes though, you're lucky that the change is something you are pushing onto yourself. But
Some Mhm,
everybody has change that is forced upon them.
mhm.
And when you think actually of the thing, you want something to change, right? And you look at the
Well,
change curve. Yeah.
look at the change that happened to you when you get
Yes.
approached to do this
Yes,
book, right?
exactly. I did not want to do a book.
There's an example right there. Anyway, I
Exactly.
didn't mean to
No,
sidetrack you.
it's perfect. It's perfect because like the change curve has been a tool that's been out there, and a lot of people have heard the phrase change curve. They've heard
Mhm,
that this thing exists, right? But not a lot of people have actually worked with it or been taught with it or used it for themselves and their team. When you get to know the change curve, it starts with the shock, and it's at a certain height on the curve where you've got an energy and an efficiency level that's performing. And when you have some change forced upon you, you have shock, and that's like paralyze, right? You're not going
mhm.
to be moving up, you're not moving down, you're a little bit shocked. What the heck just happened, right? Then you start to dip on energy and effectiveness, and you go down into denial. Well, there's no way this thing's going to stick, right? There's no way this isn't happening. And resistance, not only is there no way this thing is going to stick, there's no way I'm going to allow it. I'm going to change jobs. They're not going to be able to survive after this, or whatever it may be. That's part of the normal cycle that you go
Mhm.
through. Then when you allow curiosity to start creeping back in, that's where you get exploration and ultimately into commitment. And the part that no one talks about on the change curve a lot is that commitment side, that new end state that you wanted to get to, is higher than the point in time of where you were at shock. So that means that you're performing with higher energy and higher effectiveness than where you started. It's not even, it's actually up. So that actually requires a different person and a different capability of yourself to be able to perform at that level.
Right.
So you do have to evolve it and change through it as well.
The change curve, and like you said, a lot of people have heard the expression, and a lot of people uh, may have seen a similar curve which which goes, it takes you from the shock and through
Yep.
denial until you get to a point where you're kind of bartering, and then you get to a point
Yep.
of acceptance, and then you start to perform. That is exactly the same cycle as the grief cycle.
Yes. It is, because change is a loss. You are
Yes.
losing something. You have to recognize it and come to
Yeah.
terms with that. And there's value add in that. People think you want to discount that whole grief, like the shock and the denial and resistance, like, oh, I got to just get through this. No, there's gold there.
Yeah.
The gold is realizing what you're losing. That is where you get some really good clarification questions and some good insight to actually make the change better when you start going up the other curve.
Yeah.
Every place on that curve is exactly right for the right reasons at the right time for every individual. And so the other part I like about the curve is that often in organizations, when you have a change thrust upon you, ones I can relate to is new CEO coming in, a new leader coming in, a new
Oh
team
yeah.
member coming in, right? You name it, it's got a new
Having worked in
strategy.
military and government, every 2 to 3 years, you got somebody new coming,
Exactly, you got
and they always
somebody
want to
new.
change the flavor of the soup.
Exactly, right? But when you are leading a team and that change is being thrust upon you, we are taught that we have to lead from that full commitment level. I got
Right.
this. I know what's doing. This is the right thing. I'm leading from commitment. The beauty of the change curve is you can only lead with the energy that you have, which means the energy of where you are on that curve. You
Hmm.
cannot lead from where you want to be.
Right.
So when you're leading, you need to recognize where you are on the curve, because if you try to lead from full commitments, but you're still in shock mode over here with your team, you're going to lose trust. They're going to lose confidence. They're not going to hear the clarity, and you're not going to see the clarity that you need to give your team. So you need to recognize where you are and lead from that place, because only then can you actually start to move forward. Leading from shock does not mean I don't understand. It does not mean that I'm not going to move forward. It means I'm in shock right now. Let me absorb this. This is the
Yeah.
energy I've got. This is the reality of where I am. I know this change is coming. It doesn't change that fact. So recognizing where you are and then meeting your teams where they are, and just trying to help them do one step forward. You can't jump from one to the next, and it's not linear. You're going to move back and forth. Today, I may be, oh, let's explore this. Let's have fun with this one. Oh,
Hmm.
crap, it didn't work. Oh, God damn, this thing's not going to work anymore. You will move back and forth, and
Oh
it's
yes.
all okay. I equate it a bit to a rainstorm. Well, actually, recently we had those huge snowstorms that happened up in New York City, and I just used this in a presentation that I gave. The snowstorm hits. Everyone is relating to it different. Some people are like, I'm not going to work today. I'm staying in bed, pulling up the covers, turning on Netflix. I'm just going to stay warm. I'm not going
Right.
anywhere, right?
Right.
Other people saw the snowstorm and like, wow, this is great. I'm going to the middle of Central Park and I'm going to go build snowmen. They're
Yep.
just having fun and out
Go
playing with it, right?
go sledding, and yeah.
Right. And other people are like, okay, I got to put on my winter coat. I got to stay protected. I got to put on my boots and I got to go march my way into work. They're
Hmm.
all experiencing that storm different. And every experience of it is okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Everyone's perception is valid.
It is
Yeah.
valid where they are.
Yes.
And there's good in where they are. My favorite TikTok video I saw from it, maybe others saw it. Somebody went to Central Park and made a 4-minute video of all of the different snowmen that people had made in Central Park during that storm.
I need to look this
And
up.
I didn't know you could do so many things with snow. It was a lot of fun, but it's just
Oh,
another
there are
way to
some
relate to it.
incredibly talented people out there.
That there are. I can barely get one mound of snow on top of another, let alone form what they did. So, yeah.
Oh, truly amazing. And you were saying that, change is, you lose something in change, which is why
Mhm.
you go through shock. And the thing is, people don't realize a lot of times you gain things in change, but the
You
first
absolutely do.
thing that happens is you lose your comfort zone, or you
Right.
lose what you were familiar with. And what you
Right.
were familiar with might have been crap,
Right.
but you
Right.
were familiar with it, right? You understood where things were, and you understood what you were dealing with. And when something changes, you go into that unfamiliar territory.
Right.
And
Right. Exactly.
so you may have actually wound up so much better, but there's
Right.
still that shock and denial phases that you have to go through in order to get make those next steps. But
Exactly.
unfortunately, it's that fear of change, that fear of the unknown that keeps people stagnant. And that's why
Right.
people stay in unfortunately abusive relationships or bad jobs or low pay or whatever.
Yeah.
They stay there because they at least are familiar with that particular devil.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. And there's another tool that I have. By the way, on my website, I've created 2 pages you can look at in the menu. One is the change curve, and it explains the change curve in the
Oh,
terms
good.
that we were just talking about, so people can go see that there.
It's good
Simple,
to see it, to
straightforward.
have that visual pictorial.
Yep.
Yes.
And another tool that I've got out there so far is what I call the change compass.
Compass.
Yeah, and the
Mhm.
change compass isn't something that's out there talked about. It's one that I've created over the last 30 years with the help and support of the teams that I had working for me over those years. Um, it is really about when that you hit that shock stage. What people need when you meet somebody there is you've got to help them get their footing. You got to help them understand where they're standing. They need not feel like the rug's being pulled out from under them.
Oh,
And the
nice.
change compass is about 4 simple questions, and they are so deceptively simple. It asks the question, what is changing?
Mhm.
What is not changing? What do you know about the change? And what do you not know about the change? Now, you start with that question of what is changing. And you were talking about what your brain does when you first hear this. What are you losing, right? Your brain throws everything, including the kitchen sink, into that
Yes.
list of what is changing, right?
So true.
A new CEO, the moment you hear a new CEO is coming into your company, the first thing that you're doing, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. Really? No, that right. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to have to drive a different way to work. My husband's going to leave me. Whatever it may be, you're going to throw everything into
Yes.
that. What is changing? And if you facilitate yourself and your team through this, go ahead, write the laundry list of what is changing and then breathe a second
And then validate, right. Yeah.
and just look at the list and
Or
say, is
invalidate. No,
it
not really,
right?
not really, not really.
And when what you do is you start taking those items, say, okay, I don't really know that yet. I don't know if that Mark team is going to be, I'm going to lose my job. I don't know that. Um, what is changing? What is changing? You end up with only thing I know right now is there's a new CEO.
Right.
Maybe we know a little bit more about him. There's a new CEO who came from somewhere. I don't know. But you can start moving those things into what is not changing, what you know, and what you don't know. And it starts, what happens when you do that, the energy level, that chaos starts to calm. And everybody, the whole pressure kind of goes down a bit, and everybody starts feeling solid footing again, which gives the opportunity for energy to resurface, which creates the momentum to be able to start moving forward to the next step. And that gives you insight as a leader, that bucket of what you don't know, you have gold in there as to what is really concerning your team and in action items for you to go get clarity on to
Mhm.
help your team when you come revisit the exact same tool again in another week or two when you know more.
Right.
And you can start moving more things into what is changing and what you know, and you can shift things all around. It's probably the most deceptively simple, powerful tool in all of the training I had. All of General Electric didn't teach that one. That was something that was created with myself and my team working there. But it is the most deceptively simple tool I've ever had when it comes to change.
Yeah, and it's absolutely brilliant to help people to walk through, because what happens, you're right. What we do is our brain immediately puts all the worst case scenarios together.
Yes.
And you throw your hands up, oh my God, hair's on fire kind of reaction to
Right.
things. And until you can take time and say, okay, let's validate these assumptions. And then you
Right.
realize none of them are valid.
Right.
There's only one or
Right.
two things that are actually real. And then one of the things that I like to do is help people to take a look at it through a so what lens.
Right. Right.
So okay, you've now validated not these 14 different things that you were worried about. You realize
Right.
only two things have any validity to them. And so what? So what if this does happen? So
Right.
what? What
Right.
is the worst outcome that can be? And then what's the
Yeah.
reality or the likelihood that that's really going to be that bad? Well, probably not. Maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe not. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad after all.
Right.
Or
Exactly.
hey, it winds up being better.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
And I think you could add on to the like the so what aspect. What if, right?
Yeah. Same
Um,
thing. Same question.
I
Yeah.
it's same kind of concept, but I apply it to an opportunity I had that came my way, which was a financial play project. Someone wanted me to come in on a fractional basis and help with, and it was one of those. We want to cut so many dollars. I've run those types of projects. They are not fun,
They are not
right?
fun. No, they're
No.
not.
And I get to choose what I'm a part of. And I was ready to call my friend CEO and say, hell no. Right. Right. And then I stopped myself. I said, what would make this a hell yes? You know? And that's where I come with like the what if possibility. What could make this like a hell yes? I'm excited about what could be created, what could be possible on that. And it turned into one of the most rewarding projects and programs I ever was a part of because it
Love
was
it.
we made it about a culture creator and a people protector, if you will. That it wasn't. Yes, there's a financial play with it. Yes, that is always part of business,
Yep.
right?
That's
But it changed our conversations. It changed the way that we went about things, even as simple as the day you're going to notify people are exiting, right? That horrible conversation that you have with an organization and the conversation you're going to notify them on the day. How much notice are you going to give them? They didn't have any money for severance, but what we decided, since up front we agreed this was going to be about a culture creator that respected the people that were staying and coming and going, we actually decided to notify people, like everyone on, I'll make up the dates, like June 1st. Everyone would be notified June 1st that they would probably have a date somewhere between July 15th and August 15th. And they were notified of what their date most likely was. That was built in severance. We took the
yeah.
risk somebody may leave. We took the risk of the lower productivity, but it respected the people
Right.
and it helped
Yes.
create culture enabler. And it was because I asked the question, what would make it a hell yes? It created the opportunity to change that type of financial play, heavy burden project to something that was so creating and beautiful.
Love it. Love it. Wow. Noel, I cannot believe. Look at how quickly this time has gone.
Wow. Wow. It
I
has gone
told you,
fast.
I told you before we even got on. I said this is going to go fast, and it goes fast because we have these fantastic conversations, right? Just like you were able to write your chapter so fast once you sat down and
Right.
got into it, like poof, there it is, and it's all out there, and you have lots of other ideas. I can see us having a zillion more conversations. And I think we will. I absolutely think we will. I want to definitely stay in touch and do things together because I think we're both in the same realm of things, and we look at things through the same kind of a lens. And I think a lot of people who have listened to this show are going to get a lot of benefit out of it. So I'm going to tell everybody who's watching right now, watch this from the beginning and play it back again a few times. There has been not just gold but platinum nuggets coming out here with Noel Andrews-Sotta, and what a fantastic perspective on change. How change is inevitable, but chaos is optional, which is the name of her chapter in volume 19 of Cracking the Rich Code, which I need to get a copy of. I don't have that yet. That just came out relatively recently from the time of this
Yes.
recording, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. And Noel, I may have to get you to autograph my copy.
Sounds great. Would be happy to.
All right, looking forward to that, folks. Definitely check out Noel Andrews-Sotta's website at noelandrewssotta.com. That's SOTTA, by the way, even though it sounds like SODA. I say that for those of you who are only listening and not looking at the screen, but this site will also be in the show notes. And again, read Noel's chapter in Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 19. And most importantly, I think you were probably as inspired as I was that want to reach out and connect and get to know more about Noel and her background and just dig into that brain of hers. You want to reach out and connect with her on LinkedIn. She's very responsive there, and you can find her under her name, Noel Andrews-Sotta. And again, you don't have to dig deep because there's no like weird code numbers or anything else. She's the only one out there, so that really works out well. Noel, is there anything else you'd like to tell folks before we wrap this up in the next 30 seconds?
If you're dealing yourself and you feel like you're knee deep in mud and you're trying to take one step forward and aren't quite sure how to get get from point A to where you want to go, let me step in and help. I'm happy to have a conversation, give you some tools. Whether there's an ongoing partnership, I'll be able to provide some nuggets to help you move forward. So please reach out.
I love it. I love it. Noel, thank you again. Wonderful conversation. And folks, the wisdom that we get from these conversations makes it worthwhile to keep listening, and why I keep coming back and hosting this show, because I absolutely love doing it. And conversations like this just really get my juices going. And I know they are for you too. So check out Noel Andrews-Sotta on her website, in Cracking the Rich Code Volume 19, on LinkedIn, all that great stuff. Watch this episode again and again, and then tune in for the next episode to see what other wonderful guests we'll have next time. Noel, thank you again. Have a great day.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Take care now.